Let's take a little peek to tomorrow's games here before we get down to the Final Four. Creighton against San Diego State. I get it that Creighton's a 6 seed, but they felt like a team that at least a lot of sharps out here in Las Vegas had their eye on to possibly even come out of this region here. What do you make of the way that they're playing now, and were they a little bit misseeded as a 6?
No, I don't think they were misseeded. I mean, they got their seed based on what they did during the season. They had some injury problems. Kalkbrenner was out for a while. They had that 6-game losing streak in December. There was some overlap, but not entirely, between Kalkbrenner's injury and that losing streak. And that's, just kind of, and then they had some hit and miss play at the end of the season. But that's a team that was better than the number to the left of their name. And I think we all knew that. But that was also true of Texas A&M, and they went out in the first round. So you still have to win the games, and Creighton is winning the games. And they look pretty good. They're shooting reasonably well. San Diego State's going to be an interesting matchup for them because they like to play in the muck. They like to get in you defensively, make you uncomfortable, and they did a really good job of that with Alabama. And their prolific offense, San Diego State took them out of anything they wanted to do. And Creighton is really going to be challenged offensively in this game. That Kalkbrenner is a guy that is a matchup problem for San Diego State because they just don't have anybody that big. And there were times that Alabama was able to exploit San Diego State inside. Creighton probably is going to need to do that. This is a great coaching matchup. It's a great style, different type of matchup, and whoever can dictate style is probably going to win.
It's the lowest point total, by the way, on the board here, 133.5. So expecting maybe
San Diego State.
Right, exactly.
That's San Diego State. They're the king of unders.
Jerry, I think maybe one of the biggest surprises of the Sweet 16 here is what Miami was able to do offensively against Houston. Nearly 1.3 points per possession for the Hurricanes, far and away the most that Houston allowed in any game this season. Will Miami find the same offensive success here against Texas?
Oh, well, maybe. Texas is a pretty good defensive team too, but the thing about, Texas is, and not that Houston had offensive problems, they surely did, and they had some weapons. But man, Miami was going, and you just have to try and slow their guards down. Miami's guards, that is. It's a hard thing to do, but man, they scored almost 90 against Houston. I think that's like a game and a half of points against Houston. That's a remarkable performance, and that's a really good matchup because I think both teams are really good offensively. I think Texas is better defensively, and that could end up being the difference in the game. But, boy, it'd be foolish to rule Miami out.
Jerry, when I look at the Elite Eight here, there's only 2 coaches that have done this and taken their teams to a Final Four before. Of course, Mark Few doing it at Gonzaga, and Jim Larinaga back in his days at George Mason. Does that give those guys a distinct advantage over the other guys who have never been there and done that?
I don't know. I think you've got pretty experienced coaches for the most part. Terry has been a head coach before, the Texas coach, Rodney Terry, who should be the full-time head coach and still isn't. But anyways, he's been a head coach before, but not at this level. So his experience could be an issue, I suppose, but it hasn't been yet. And then, of course, May at Florida Atlantic is also, new to, just getting this far at all in the tournament. Jerome Tang, his first year as a coach. So, we definitely have some inexperienced coaches here, but you aren't seeing, problems yet. These coaches don't look like they're in over their heads at all. And I don't know why, this weekend would be any different.
Yeah, I also look at one thing I wanted to ask you about too is, it feels like the tournament, they love it when Cinderella, kind of gets to the Sweet 16, makes a run. Then they want the heavy hitters there to get to the Final Four and cut down the nets. We don't really have the heavy hitters.
No,
what do you make of this tournament overall? Because it feels very different from most tournaments.
Oh, it totally does. There's still some big names. UConn is a previous champion. Gonzaga's been to the Final Four. Unfortunately, I guess only one of them can go. Texas is still a big name in athletics, and if not, basketball necessarily. They've done well in basketball before. So, you've got some names here, but you don't have Kansas or Duke or Carolina, or, some of the names that we're used to seeing in this thing almost every year. I don't know. I think that's great. It's fun to see some new blood in the NCAA tournament. I don't know how the casual viewer is going to feel about it. And I don't know how, people who fill out brackets are all, have all set fire to them. But, someone's going to win a pool. It's just not going to win with very many points this year. It's been a weird tournament, but I don't mind it. I like it a lot better if my team were in it, but we were the first of the 1 seeds to go out. So,
it happens.
That's the way it goes.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.